joining. Welcome, welcome. I see more people joining. So feel free to start dropping any questions down in the Q&A. I already see some questions, and then, of course, we're gonna make sure to answer in more depth towards the end. Hello, Chuck. Welcome, welcome to the webinar. Cool. So everybody can see my screen, right? Yeah. Thumbs up. Cool. So as I said, let's get started with my topic. Again, just to go a little bit more in depth about Ecomcy as well in terms of stats. We've been in the space for over 6 years now. In terms of a track record, we have over 1,000 brands. Right now, we have a team of close to 70 people. We manage over 9 figures in revenue and over 8 figures in managed ad spend. So we have a lot of expertise when it comes to managing brands on marketplaces. And when it comes to myself, beyond being the founder and CEO of Ecomcy, I also have a podcast. So I invite everybody to check it out. In fact, some of the speakers that are with us today have been in there. It's called the e-commerce lab. And of course, beyond that, I'm also an Amazon seller. So everything that you guys are going through when it comes to Amazon, also D2C, I'm experiencing myself. And those are going to be some of the examples as well that are going to pinpoint today when it comes to how you can execute it to the specific needs. So let's dive into the topic when it comes to D2C, which is why Amazon isn't enough anymore. Like at the end of the day, as I briefly just mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we're seeing how the whole Amazon ecosystem is getting very, very complex, not only because it's getting more competitive, but it's also the fees associated with actually managing a brand on Amazon are getting higher. Like we see Amazon pretty much ramping up the costs across the board on the PPC side of things, on the inventory side of things, on the promotional side of things, the control that you get over the reviews, the protection that you have of your brand on certain sector. So it's getting tougher and tougher. And don't get me wrong, Amazon, of course, is definitely a place that you have to be. It's a must, but that doesn't mean it's the only place you have to put your focus. In fact, most of the brands that have done that in the past, they've been having a very tough journey with the whole panorama that we're experiencing right now. That's why we need to start understanding, okay, what are the advantages of being on Amazon, but what are also the limitations of only being on Amazon? Like a lot of the brands that we actively manage at Ecomcy right now, the success, to be honest with you, is because they have done a very good job outside of Amazon. They have a good presence on their website. They have a good presence on TikTok. They have a good presence with the newsletter. They have a good blog. They are very strong with the influencer program. So it's understanding how, of course, we're going to leverage the traffic that Amazon gives us, because at the end of the day, yes, Amazon gives a lot of traffic and it's going to give us a ton of conversion that is going to be very tough for you to replicate in other channels. But that doesn't mean it's going to be the only pillar you have to put all your eggs into, especially with the things that we experiencing today. So now the thing that we have to start understanding, okay, how do we go beyond the Amazon side of things in terms of maximizing the traffic that we get from Amazon, using it as a launchpad, but also making sure we start building that D2C kind of storefront where we can have a unique customer experience. We can own the customer, which at the end of the day is what really gonna make the difference moving forward. Like we're seeing on Amazon, for example, how Amazon is putting a lot of focus on things such as creating your own audiences. For those that haven't seen, Amazon is being heavily investing in things such as Amazon Marketing Cloud, which is essentially a data space, just as maybe you guys have experience on Google Ads or Meta Ads, where you can create your own persona, you can create your avatar. And the reason why Amazon is investing so much time into that is because you understand that understanding your consumer is really the key moving forward. And if you haven't done that even outside of Amazon, it's going to be very difficult to then kind of replicate that within the marketplace itself, because there are certain tools that Amazon is rolling out to kind of extrapolate your success on D2C to Amazon. So now what we actually going to try to do throughout this expansion in terms of growing outside of Amazon itself is on understanding, okay, how do I take the customer base? I personalize the whole brand experience, and this has to come down also to flexibilities that you're going to encounter on having your own website that you're not going to encounter on Amazon. So a very quick example of that is, for example, on our own kind of D2C experience with the brands that we own, it comes down to how do I have a follow-up with the customer after the purchase that you're going to do on Amazon, how you offer unique bundle experiences, promotions, kind of VIP programs, kind of different experience that have to do with purpose throughout the whole shopping experience to upsell a customer. So is making sure that that's part of the D2C kind of a blueprint, because at the end of the day, D2C is not only about having a nice website. That's it. It's about why would I go to your website instead of Amazon to experience something that is going to make me actually want you to give you my details in the first place and actually become a loyal client beyond the Amazon ecosystem. So the question is, when we do this launch to D2C, is when is the right time to do this, right? Because before we jump into the strategic side of things, is how do I know, especially for all those that are currently live with me on today's webinar, how do I make the decision that I should be doing that jump in the first place? And the reason why this is a very important question before we jump into the technicality of the strategy is because if you do it too early, you can get burned very fast. Like D2C, and especially from all the experts that you're going to be learning from on today's webinar, it can be very costly if you don't know what you're doing, like especially from an advertising point of view. Like when you do advertising on Meta or Google, you have to be very specific with the way you drive traffic, and also you need to understand the timelines associated with that, because if you have zero data on your pixel and the overall kind of database of your D2C ecosystem, it's not going to be 0 to 100 like potentially you could experience on Amazon kind of a scenario. So you need to understand that, and that comes down to what is the cash flow kind of position you're currently encountering on your brand. With the successful cases that we have seen, usually if you're not doing at least more than or around 50,000 in revenue on Amazon, we usually would recommend that you keep building your Amazon presence, because what is going to happen if you don't have the cash flow to keep sustaining your growth, that means fueling the advertising D2C while you start getting those conversion, or all the expenses of having a D2C presence, which is influencer marketing or split testing your website. That's another thing. Running a successful website in the sense of converting the traffic is also a science that takes a lot of time to master. Like I'm sure you're gonna learn throughout today's presentations that on your D2C presence, having a conversion 3 to 5% is like you're doing very good job compared to Amazon that 3 to 5%, that means you're at the bottom of the chain, right? So it's understanding all those things and making sure that you do at the right time to sustain kind of the growth you're experiencing also with your Amazon brand. Now, in terms of strategies and things that we try to put into implementation when it comes to D2C, are usually 4 pillars that I like to take into consideration. So the first one is the differentiation. Usually what we try to do with D2C, once we have our core products kind of successfully creating the cash flow and expansion on the marketplace, we try to focus on D2C to provide things that they cannot experience on Amazon, as I've been saying so far. So these could be things such as, for example, upgrading to a better material or a better bundle or a better kind of a variation that you only can get, or personalization to the website, because that will make sure that you use Amazon as a lead magnet. You get all the cheap traffic that you're going to get from people click on your bestseller on Amazon. But then if they know that there is something beyond that and they can only get it on your website, there's a very big chance that they're going to jump from Amazon to D2C. So that's the first one. The second one as well is how you make sure that the whole branding on your D2C is also a unique experience. This comes down to how to experience the whole website. It has to do sometimes with sounds, with pop-ups, with unique promotions, with access to unique products. So that goes side by side with how you segmentate 2 different experiences, but come down to the same kind of brand ecosystem. And then the last two is, loyalty in terms of programs. Like this could be to points, could be to a recurrent promotions, like they keep buying from your website, they get something that they don't get from Amazon. And the other thing is also making sure you have a clear segmentation of traffic. The least mistake you wanna achieve here when doing the D2C expansion is cannibalization. That happens a lot. This means that you're gonna be driving a lot of traffic, sometimes with your social media, influencers, newsletter, or whatever you do outside of Amazon, you start driving that potentially to Amazon. And what could happen is that all that effort that you've been doing on D2C start being neglected, because then people usually might stay on Amazon if they have Prime, or you have all your products, or you have nothing you need to experience on your website. So that's very important to consider. Now, when it comes to the Amazon side of things, something that of course you need to take in consideration is the how you're gonna protect your brand. So of course, one of the things I like on the Amazon side of things, and that's why usually I recommend in my blueprint starting with Amazon expanding to D2C, is that you get to, you know, get into unique programs when it comes to Launchpad, when it comes to brand registry, when it comes to IP accelerator and things like that. That's gonna fast track what a brand is in the first place, at least from a legal point of view, from from the context of all the things that make a brand in terms of bulletproof against Chinese sellers and all of that. So that's something you definitely have to take advantage of on Amazon, and tends to be much cheaper than trying to do it on your own. But then that doesn't mean you're gonna stay there. You need to use that, as I've been explained so far, to then launch part the momentum into your D2C kind of presence. Now, here are two examples of brands that have done that, right? So we have Gravity Products here as one of the brands. So this is one of the brands that what they consistently did is using Amazon to grab all the kind of traffic, right? So they were focusing only on growing Amazon, and in fact, then you can reverse engineer this brand. You're gonna see how they invest a lot of thought into building all the listings, all controlling keywords, controlling their niche. But as soon as they were around the 1 million pound per year revenue, what they did is expand into D2C, right? And in fact, if you go to the D2C presence, you're gonna see they have unique products in there, unique promotions, and the same was done with the LMT kind of brand in the electrolyte kind of niche. The same kind of strategy we've been discussing so far. Using Amazon, grab the kind of free, not free, but cheaper traffic for sure than D2C. Create that consistency in terms of people buying from you, creating your kind of dominance in that niche, and then try to find ways to give them exclusive kind of access to programs, to promotions, to products that they're gonna get to your website, and then to recurrent newsletter, retargeting ads through Meta and Google. You keep them engaging with your D2C. And here is like a sustainable kind of flywheel that I like to implement when it comes to that. So the first one is the discovery, which is again what I've been explaining so far. We use Amazon as a lead magnet. We usually, in some instances, in fact, for some of the brands, put products that sometimes we might break even or even lose money on Amazon. But the reason why we do that is because we know in the packaging or the insert, or when it comes to the customer experience on Amazon, they're gonna discover our website or D2C presence. So it's all about getting all those leads, getting them to discover the experience of a brand, and then we convert them to our D2C. And then of course, it's a combination of all the gamifying you're gonna do on the website through programs, loyalty, promotion, unique experience, and educating the consumer to then retain them into the D2C and make sure they go from being an Amazon only customer to transform into D2C, which sometimes is gonna end up being cheaper than just trying to go the only D2C kind of route. Now, some of the challenges coming to our like negative side that of course they are going to encounter when doing this expansion. I would say the number one thing is going to be the logistics side of things. Like a lot of people struggle when going from Amazon to D2C because you need to deal with your shipping, your returns, everything from A to Z. But the good news here is that Amazon has rolled out a lot of programs here to make things easier for you. Like we know, like for example, Buy with Prime is being fully rolled out across the states. Amazon Fulfillment Network now is being fully integrated with a lot of apps. So now you can fulfill orders from Amazon kind of pool of inventory to your Shopify and beyond. So that's something that is not an excuse anymore. And the same with a customer service. Like there's so many AI tools right now that you can give them a blueprint and they can pretty much navigate everything on your behalf. And I will say the real challenge is the marketing investment, which is why the 50K and more in revenue is very important. If you don't have that, it's going to be very difficult for you to keep that consistency in terms of paying for your Meta ads, Google ads, until that kind of D2C loyalty is built. Now, here is some of the things we try to always focus in terms of, kind of scenarios. Like this is, for example, usually the balance we try to achieve. This is an example for one of the brands. Like we try to always use Amazon as a cash cow, right? Because at the end of the day, even if sometimes Amazon might not be the most profitable channel for sure, it's the one that's going to give you the cash flow to sustain a business. And with that cash, it's going to be very difficult to fuel all your advertising, promotions, influencers, X, Y, and Z, right? So this is usually what you want to do. You want to start Amazon, getting the revenue up and running beyond the minimum that we've been talking so far. But as soon as you hit that, and if you see the potential, you should be investing that into your D2C sales until potentially you try to match it, or at least kind of give you a sustainable percentage that's gonna make that D2C kind of into a snowball effect down the line. And I will say in terms of conclusion, when doing this jump from Amazon to D2C, and then of course combining this with all the strategic things that you're gonna be learning today, is going through these kind of 4 phases, right? The first one is using Amazon as the launchpad. I think for 90% of brands, Amazon is going to be the cheaper way for you to launch the brand and get those initial sales and momentum. Once you have that consistently, then you want to focus on using Amazon to protect your brand and create a consolidation on the niche. Then you want to use the cash flow to expand to D2C by creating that unique experience in terms of unique products, unique loyalty programs, unique kind of access to things that they wouldn't get through Amazon. And then, of course, that might be your launchpad to expand beyond Amazon and D2C. This could be TikTok, this could be Walmart, and so on, right? So that's everything from me. Of course, if you have any questions or you'd like to talk more about how we can help you with the whole integration between Amazon and D2C, feel free to scan the QR code below. But yeah, I'm out now. So I think next for now, we have Daniel, right? Daniel, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Good. So before we continue with Daniel, just to remind everybody live, we're gonna have, of course, at the end the Q&A session. So feel free to leave the questions below, and then towards the end, we'll make sure we answer them in depth. So Daniel, welcome. I think if you want, you can start, by introducing yourself. Tell us more about the company, your topic, and let's go. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Vincenzo, for inviting me. It's super exciting to be here. And actually, I have the presentation. Hopefully, you can see that. Let me check that I can control. Yeah, I think like I can control, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, today I'm going to be talking about influencer strategy, and the reason why, because this is the essential part for any D2C. I know that influencer can be really impactful on Amazon, but I also heard that many Amazon brands, they can deal without influencers at all, right? Like just bring up like affiliates, but it's not like a really influencer strategy behind these things. So for D2C, I think this is a really different thing, and also you cannot ignore that. And here I'm going to be explaining that what's up with the influencer marketing or creator marketing, and why paid versus organic approach is killing your influencer strategy at all. So about myself, I'm Danil, immigrant CEO, a co-founder based here in New York City. I'm really passionate about creator commerce and UGC, affiliate, influencers, TikTok shop. I can bring a lot of hashtags here, but generally love to connect influencers with brands on meaningful way. And yeah, speaking at D2C conferences, website, like some webinars and so on. So today I'm going to be like talking about the influencers and how to approach, but why I'm can talk about that, because I'm the CEO, co-founder of Incense. We've been running company for 9 years together with my brother, and scale it to the point where we have 2,500 e-commerce brands and agencies who are leveraging the platform, and we have almost 70,000 creators in our network. Those people who are actually making money for living, and this is like one of the most fascinating part of our business. But in a nutshell, it's a creator marketplace where we connect both sides. You can brief creators, you can find creators, you can chat with them, you can get the content and content copyrights, as well as facilitating the payouts to those creators. Let's dive in. So creator or influencer marketing is definitely an unavoidable reality in e-commerce these days. But at the same time, what we started observing that many brands do this in the wrong way. And the reason why, because they have heard some of the Twitter thread from some guru or like podcast or wherever that, hey, this is our the way how we're doing that. This is the blueprint, right? And they're copy pasting this and just start implementing for their brands without even thinking about doesn't make sense for my vertical, for my brand. What is the stage of my brand? Because some of the brands, they already 8 figures, they already build their name, they shape the creator community. So obviously, a lot of creators going to be applying for the seeding campaign because they know the brand. They have seen that in Walmart, like in a physical store. And some of the brands could be like, oh, I'm also in this vertical, let's say supplements. So I'll do like this 8 figures brand. Well, it's not going to be work like that because your brand is just starting and people never heard about that. And the same way it's happening with a lot of folks from who is trying to transition from Amazon brand to multi-platform, like including D2C, that you can be the number whatever, like 7 in your category or number 1 in your category, but it doesn't mean that a lot of people will know about your brand. Like it applies for the customers and influencers. So you need to pitch your brand again and again. So that's why this is something that I want to put like 2 statements here. One of them is that a lot of marketers, especially those who are less experienced with with that space and D2C space particularly, they assume that influencer marketing is organic, right? That's like one of the claim. The second one is that, oh, creators, UGC creators, they will help me with UGC and then whitelisting or meta partnership ads, and they're going to be dominating in ads. So those 2 statements are true, but at the same time, like they are also wrong because this is where everything has shifted over the course of the past, I would say like 2-3 years, that influencer marketing is not only organic. So right now, considering influencer marketing only from organic perspective, let's say like affiliate or just to post something organically, it's wrong. It's not going to be lead you to success. The second one is that yes, creators can help you with a lot of UGC and whitelisting, but at the same time, to the point of Vincenzo, many of folks, they started approaching, oh, meta ads. I'm going to be running like my ads on Facebook and Instagram, and it will drive me a lot of traffic, but it's costly. And it's a different, difficult game to crack. So that's why, yes, paid social is costly, and it works only better with organic. So let's say if you are running the paid social with the content has been produced by creators, but you are not really working on your own Instagram profile, you know what is happening? People are going to be going to your Instagram profile, will check that you have 10 followers and barely like a couple of pieces of the content, and they will think that it's scam. So that's why like this is the impact of organic, how it works on paid social and vice versa. So we're going to be diving here later on. So best example of harmony between organic and paid and creator marketing is obviously this tool, or not even the company because it's a TikTok shop, right? So I think TikTok shop just showcase us that it's almost impossible to become a top 10 player in the space using only organic. Same way applicable for paid social. So if you're going to be just running ads but not working with influencers from organic perspective, as well as like posting in your TikTok shop, 40 to 60 videos, it's almost impossible to win this category. So that's why the only what it actually works is the combination of both. So you need to combine organic and paid efforts. So organic social, I think for the organic social right now, it's became a really popular way how to build up your name. And I guess that's also applicable for those brands who just considering like to switch from Amazon Amazon space to D2C space is product seeding campaigns. So what does it mean? Is that means it's no strings attached. You're going to be sending over samples to your creators, to some influencers who are going to be applicable in expecting that some of them will create the content or even post about you. So this is the best way how to step into this world. And the reason why, because in that case, you will be finding those creators who are going to be genuinely love your product. So that's why they actually made an effort. They received the content, no payment, but for whatever reason, they like the content and they like the product, and they produce the content. So that's why this is one of the best way how to step into this world. But at the same time, like the expectation should be also the same, right? So it's really hard to expect that it's going to be like you're going to be receiving high quality content coming from the setting campaigns, right? Because creators are going to be just working on that in your favor because they just love the product. But at the same time, there are a few tricks how to make this setting campaign actually workable. Is your personal approach. Where you're going to be creating some specific influencer gifting packages, or you handwritten the notes. If you're going to be just shipping as it is, like the Amazon fulfillment or whatever, and it's just like just a package that it's not makes them exciting, it's really hard to win the hearts of influencers, and that's what you need to do. But at the same time, with those creators that you identified that they are actually a good fit, so you can start building relations. So that's why our key advice here is just to continue building awareness through the setting campaigns and then switching to the more like a paid or long-term collaborations with some of the creators that you generally loved and you just have feeling that it's great. Here's the one example of the brand who actually has been really successful in that front, SoloWave. So 245 applicants in a setting campaign under 1 month. The conversion rate is really high and the engagement is there because they approach it differently, right? So they are really trying to tailor their brand to influencers. And that's the examples of the content that has been produced. So recommendation based on the brand size. So smaller brands, 40, 50 creators per month. And then you're going to be receiving around 20 posts or videos back. For the bigger brands, you can go at the larger scale. So let's say 200 creators or 80 posts. Paid social. One of the best way how to work with influencers for paid social is obviously UGC content. It's influencer content, the content that you can receive. And with that, it's way better to work with the professional UGC creators or those influencers who has UGC skills. So that's why I always ask about their portfolio. So in that case, it will help you to get the real content because remember, influencer content is equal to ad creative. So ad creative, it's about hook, body, call to action. Many influencers, they have no idea what does it mean. So only professional UGC creators, they actually spend a lot of time to learn that and to master that. So our recommendation is going to be test different concepts always. It's not you do not stuck only with a product demo. Do not stuck with even a creative concept as the opening in the back or whatever. You need to constantly testing what is going to be working for you. For that, you can actually observe using this software called Foreplay. This is my high recommendation. Another one, based on that, you can identify the winning creatives and also trying to understand why it's stood out. Our recommendation here is going to be using Motion. It's fascinating software that helps you to get those insights, or just observe your Facebook Ads Manager. And lastly, once you actually know what works and why it works based on your content. So in that case, you can get to the point where you start in scale. 20 or 50 creators for UGC, hire 5, 10, and then learn from that. So it's going to be iterational path. It's not going to be simple or under 1 day, but on the month 1, you will get a lot of insights out of this. And always requesting modular UGC content. So what does it mean modular? Is that you're requesting from the same influencer multiple hooks, multiple call to actions. So in that case, you're already delivering the content, you already agreed on the pricing. So you already have done the heavy lifting, asking a couple of hooks per video, a couple of call to actions with a slightly different message. It doesn't hurt though, it helps you to build your own creative library, which is really needed for meta ads and D2C. So here, the last point I believe from my side is going to be around whitelisting or meta partnership ads. This has been always one of the pillar of Instance. We actually created the entire whitelisting concept of one of the few companies probably back in 2016. I remember myself calling to influencers. What does it mean whitelisting? It's where you ask influencers to get the connection, and then they will provide the connection that allow you to run the ads using their influencer identity. So instead of your brand on Facebook or Instagram, it's going to be running from the influencer handle. and using the signals that they has in their account. This is like one of the most powerful thing. And finally, Meta starting prioritizing that and pushing this forward. So that's why you cannot ignore that in case that paid social is becoming more and more important function for you. So here's a few tips. So for the content, like obviously you need to make sure that it's going to be authentic, it's going to be a modular, it's going to be having a clear hook and call to actions, right? So this is something that it's really important. For the creators, it's always makes sense to find those creators who really resonates with your target consumers, and like you will believe to those creators who are saying about your product. And the last one, it's always like makes sense to run at least like 3 to 5 ads in one ad set, and then I'll let to Meta to prioritize which one is going to be working. You will be surprised how robust this solution right now that all of the ad platforms has. So, and in that case, sometimes you will surprise that whitelisted ad set will outperform the brand identity, or vice versa. But what you need to make sure is just to fit more information, like ad creatives as well as the whitelisted connections. So in that case, Meta will have more information to start working with. In general, we have seen that there is a uplift of 20% performance using the partnership ads. So here's the case study from our friends at Breeze. So where they generated like a lot of videos, like using the whitelisting. And whitelisting, it's one of the key um, is a key strategy for them. So key takeaways. Our recommendation is going to be like depends on the size of the brand. Starting with a UGC, it's a five UGC creators is going to be enough to learn from that, and then you can switch to like 10 to 20 per month. But when it comes to the seeding campaigns, our recommendation is going to be like also learning like what is the profile, but then you can go to this to scale of 10 creators outreach day, ads launch day, like around 10. And then always make sure that you continue building relations with influencers, because influencers, it's not one-off campaigns. It's also about building community and building relations with them. I believe that Jordan West will speak about that. He's the pro here, but yeah, this is something that our key takeaways. So yeah, that's about us. We have the some offer. It's a free strategy call and $200 for your first campaign on us once you subscribed. So click here. I will send this presentation later on, but you can also scan QR code. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Very engaging. So for all of those that have any questions, as I've been saying so far, leave all your questions below. And then towards the end, we have Q&A so we can go one by one. So up next, Jordan, how you doing?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Daniel, it was nice to go through your presentation too. I think that we're really tracking with a lot of the stuff that you're doing on the whitelisting side, and this like omni-channel approach is specifically from TikTok Shop creative over into Meta is massive, right? And I think that most brands don't even understand any of that, and how like one of the interesting things that I saw recently was like multiple studies that Meta is putting forward with the insane drop in CPA on these whitelisted ads, and still 70% of D2C spend is still happening over on Meta, right? So no matter what we want, and 3% is happening on TikTok, right, in D2C. So we know that TikTok and TikTok Shop is this gold mine, right, of specifically a content gold mine, right? But I think most brands aren't figuring out how to actually then go and leverage it onto other platforms. With my team, that's like all the conversations we're having, like with Google, with Snap, with Meta. Like, how do we take that and actually leverage that, because that is the content that is converting, specifically at top of funnel, right? So
Yeah.
sorry, long
No
ramble.
worries. I love it. So Jordan, if you want, we can start, with a brief introduction about yourself, your company, and then feel free to get started with your topic, yeah?
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you for being
Sounds
here.
sounds great. Let's get into this here. I am not a great slides guy, just so everyone knows. I'm much more used to like the back and forth, but I've been getting better at slides. So I'm gonna try to walk through this for you guys, just so you understand. So we're gonna be talking about the Blitz strategy today. Super excited to talk about the Blitz. just because I really feel, can everyone see my screen? I just shifted over to a different tab. Yeah, everyone's good. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So the blitz strategy is really, really interesting from a principles kind of standpoint, right? Anytime I'm thinking about what to do on a certain platform, tactics are really boring for me. Principles are those things that we know have stood the test of time, right? And so the blitz strategy for me is one of those things, and it's something that I've been using this kind of strategy in the brands that I've owned, as well as brands at our agency for years. And when we discovered this for TikTok Shop, we're like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. So I'm going to try to get into not get into the weeds too much, but also leave you guys with something here and try and be within 10 minutes. So that's my goal, okay, throughout this talk here. So I'm going to talk about why TikTok Shop is the now platform that you need to be on. I wanted to talk about the blitz strategy, and then I'm going to talk about if I had $50,000 to spend on the platform to launch, what I would do. Again, if some of you guys are a little bit smaller, or maybe you're a little bit bigger, you can add a zero or take a zero away on that game plan. I just want to give you a $50,000 game plan there. So about me, I'm the CEO of Social Commerce Club. I've owned and scaled 7 different brands over time. I've had a podcast called Secrets to Scaling Your E-commerce Brand, which we are just starting to get some incredible traction these days, which is awesome. We're almost at episode 700 right now. Yeah, we work with tons of different brands at the agency. This is just a little tiny little bit of brands that I've worked with over the years. Awesome. Okay. So why is TikTok Shop a massively golden opportunity right now? So a few different things. First of all, TikTok is obsessed right now with getting D2C brands, not Amazon first brands, D2C first brands over into TikTok Shop. And that's a really big deal right now. So they're offering a bunch of free ad credits. They're doing a done for you shop setup, which is awesome. Their goal is to get you set up within a week. So these are for brands that are doing at least $1 million in D2C on a yearly basis. Now, some huge things right now on why TikTok Shop is so massive is there is such an algorithmic advantage right now in so many ways, especially if you know what TikTok is trying to do. So TikTok is changing their algorithm like all the time. And specifically, they are changing it for right now for brand pages themselves. So in Q3, we've seen this big shift into brand pages, getting a lot of love from the algorithm. So the more that you're posting to your actual brand page, the better, which is awesome because then you're not paying commissions on those. So there's all of these algorithmic advantages that TikTok has comparatively to other platforms, right? The virality, the viral potential on TikTok Shop comparatively to everywhere else is just crazy. Like you just can't do it. And that's why we see Meta try and fail multiple times at this. We see YouTube shopping right now trying. They don't have the algorithm that can support it in the same way. At some point, I think that's another conversation we're going to have. It's just not there. You are still also in first mover advantage right now on TikTok Shop. The majority of brands don't understand it. They haven't built the muscles for it. They just don't get it. And so this is a really, really big deal and a really, really incredible time to be able to do this. So let me talk about the blitz strategy in general, just because I think it's a really interesting strategy for everybody to understand and something that we have done. So the majority of the brands that I've owned over the years have been in apparel. And if anyone is in apparel, you'll know that the best way to get new business is to be constantly dropping, right? So when we had our apparel company, or our multiple businesses, every single week we would be dropping something new. And that's really, really powerful as you're able to do that. And so I'm taking that same strategy and using it here on TikTok Shop. So here's the really cool thing. So number one, we're going to seed out to, but before that, let me start and say like the big mistakes that brands are making is that they're treating TikTok Shop like it's a channel. Oh, I can just kind of like dip my toes in. You cannot dip your toes into TikTok Shop. You can either go all in or not. Oh, sorry, everyone. What in the world happened here? Okay, there we go. Sorry, I hit something and something happened. They're treating TikTok Shop like it is a channel that you can just kind of dip your toes in. That is not the kind of channel that it is, right? With TikTok Shop, you need to go all in. If you're going to do it, you need to go all in. And so if you're going to send out, 20 or 30 samples and expect to get something, that is not the way to do this. Now, when you think about the way that TikTok's algorithm works, it is based on momentum, right? It is based on this momentum sort of idea. And so that's what this blitz strategy attempts to take advantage of, right? The blitz strategy creates this everywhere sort of effect of your brand. So the idea is that you're going to seed out to creators, right? So for us, luckily at Social Commerce Club, we have a high GMV creator network that we tap into all the time. That's owned by us. So we're able to tap into, the top 200 to 300 creators on the platform. We actually have the top male creator in the platform on that works with us, which is really cool. So we actually seed out to them first. So for you guys, you would use a tool like Reacher, love those guys over there, and you would seed out to, let's say, the top sort of 200 creators that you can find. But here is the difference in strategy, and this is what matters. I just want to let you guys know. You can go ahead, you can send out to 200 creators, and then hopefully they'll post at some point. But that does not work nearly as well as setting a blitz date. So what we do is we start to seed out to creators and we tell them, hey, by the way, on August 20th, let's say, we are going to be doing a blitz. And so we want you to hold all of your content until then. Before that, please feel free to make your content. On that date, we are going to be doing a blitz. Now, the really cool thing about this is that you can actually then from there let them know, hey, if you want to be a part of this blitz strategy, we need to get you into our group. There's a couple of different options of where you can build this creator community. One is on WhatsApp, which I recommend. The other is on Discord. You can do Discord. The problem is Discord has just become for lots of you guys out there, if you're part of Slack groups, there's just too many, right? And so WhatsApp is cool because it comes through like a text message. Now you can only have about 1,000 people in the group. That is fine. I love WhatsApp for this. So immediately now we can get them into our group and talk to them there about the detonation time. Now, when we get to that time, we're going to detonate all the content within that 48-hour period. This is when we're going to actually encourage people to post 3 to 5 times. I mean, you could even say 5 to 10. Just post. And by the way, we're going to put a ton of budget behind it. So my recommendation is as much possible ad budget as you can put behind it during that time. Do that. This is where you're going to blow up and have this sort of everywhere effect, right? During that time, spend as much money as possible just breaking even, because other creators are going to see what you are doing and they are going to be super interested. And so these other creators are going to see oh my gosh, these guys, this particular brand is everywhere and they seem to be selling a lot. Awesome. At the end of the day, all the creators care about is that they're working with cool brands and that they're making money, right? That is what they want to do. And so they'll look and say oh man, this product's trending. Awesome. I'm going to hop on board. And now you're going to have all of these creators coming in and requesting to work with you. And it really changes the whole dynamic of everything that you're doing. From there, then you can start to iterate, refine your approach based on performance data. And then what Daniel was talking about before too, where now we're going to take all of that creative. We're going to start to request to use it on other platforms and hopefully actually whitelist those pieces of content on other platforms. So that's the whole idea. So during, step 1, this is weeks, -2 to -1 right before. This is where you're going to target your selection. Again, at Social Commerce Club, this is something that we actually just do. We have the community to do it, and that's what makes these a lot easier for us to do. That is when you're going to get the product out to them. You're going to tell them, hey, here's some videos that we think, some video ideas, but really at the end of the day, we want you to make videos that you think are going to resonate with your audience and sell, right? And then the whole idea is this coordinated communication, right? And that's the thing that most brands don't really understand, and I don't see any other people out there talking about. But to me, this is exactly what we've done for years in brand world, right? And you're creating, you're manufacturing all of these moments on the platform. And I think that that's a really, really interesting way to go about this. On the detonation day, this is when you really want to synchronize, right? Make sure that your time zones are good, and make sure that everyone is linking, to the right area. It's a really, really cool thing. Now, a little bonus for any of the D2C people out there too. If you have an email list, this is the perfect time to let people know and give them a special discount on TikTok Shop to get the algorithm working for you. So this is the perfect time to send out an email and let them know, hey, by the way, today only 30% off on TikTok Shop. We want you to buy over there. And being able to get that growth from your email list is absolutely massive. Again, you want to condense those first sales into as small of time as possible. And I think that that's the huge thing here. And then afterwards, just continuing to amplify the winners. Now, what we do too is we do at the agency at Social Commerce Club what we call content drops, right? And so we're continually trying to get these pushes of content, not a slow trickle. We're trying to get them all at once. So we'll coordinate these over and over again, whether it's a new product drop, whether it's a new, maybe we're just doing a content push for a certain product, right? Especially like, we work with quite a few apparel brands or kind of like in that space. And so we'll actually coordinate those specific kinds of drops during that time. So that's a really big thing there. And just strategically using your ad spend is like a really big part of that. Okay. I am at 10 minutes here, so I am going to, you can see I've got a bunch more slides here, but I'm going to hand it off. I also, Vincenzo, I am not, I'm going to have to hop off, so I don't know if you want me to answer a few questions now or what you'd like.
Yeah, so I think what we can do, any specific questions or anything that maybe might be specific to you, we can send them to you, and then you can reply back by email or something if you want. We can do that, because I think there's no specific question. Let me just check here about TikTok. Well, we can actually do it now. If anybody right now has any specific question about TikTok, please. Now that Jordan is here, so we can maximize his time. If not, if the questions come after, more than happy to, as I say, Jordan, we can then record it and we can send it your way, and then you can reply. Okay, so let's give it a minute or so. And I think in the meantime, while we were for that question, I think next one, Mariah, right? You're next. Yeah.
Yes.
Good. So let's give it a second. I think actually we have we have a question. How are you incentivizing these Blitz creators for you, Jordan?
So the only incentive that we're giving them is just so we're giving them, usually what we'll do is we'll give them extra, we'll be super, super generous at the beginning with organic commissions. So really high organic commissions and low ads commissions. So don't go super, super low on the ads commissions, but for the most part, we try and be as generous as possible with the top the top organic commissions. Again, remember, at scale, most brands are used to like a maximum 2.5 return on ad spend. So that's a 40% commission that you could offer, right? Most brands don't really do that math and realize like, oh yeah, I can actually offer a lot more on organic. It's just on the ad side, you need to have a separately smaller commission.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Jordan. Thank you for the question, Matthew. And then we have another questions, and then we can move to the next topic from Dana. Do you have a contract that states upfront that the brand can use their content on other platform and for whitelisting, like around content?
Yeah, so I actually think of whitelisting a little bit different. So the way, and I use another tool called Refunnel actually to do this. I love the idea of replicating the same win-win structure. I think the reason why TikTok Shop works so well is that there's such an incredible win-win structure between what the percentage of affiliate commission that is being paid out and what the brand is getting. That's why I hate like old influencer marketing when you're paying these retainers, is like there's not really as much of a win-win in that. And so that's the idea that that I love to solve on other platforms and offer a small commission on these other platforms. Alongside of that, and again, a tool like Refunnel, we can actually facilitate that in whitelisting to actually be able to pay them a small amount on their whitelisted item. So we do get access to all of that. Like we get a contract right away saying, yes, you can do that at the beginning. But I also really I don't like to take advantage of anyone. And in the end, the only way that you win is when there's win-win. So that's the way that I think about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate it. For those that have any more questions, as I said, feel free to leave it in the comments, and then of course more than happy to take them back to Jordan. So thank you, Jordan. I appreciate it. Yeah. Dawson, do you have a question? Very quickly, you raise your hand.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Jordan one thing.
Okay.
Like when you do your blitz action, so do you have any way to figure out what the sales numbers would be based on either the number of influencers you use or anything else, just so you can actually prepare for that boost in sales, whether it means having enough items in stock or any other preparation that you might need, if you found any correlation?
You know what? So far, no. because of the viral nature of TikTok Shop and of TikTok, it's very hard. It's we can set ourselves up for the best success that we can, but then a product will just like absolutely take off and will sell out, right? And so it's very hard to know. I think as we get more and more data, I'm actually building a tool in the background right now that is hopefully going to manage some of this and be able to get some of these bigger data sets in as we do more and more of these blitz launches. We're doing one right now for like a massive sock brand that I'm sure all of you guys know right now. And we don't know, like, are we going to do $1 million in the first day? Are we going to do 100,000? We don't know yet. And so at the beginning, if you can aim for like a 2-to-1 return on ad spend, awesome. I mean, there's times like we have clients right now that we're at like a 12 to 13 return on ad spend at massive scale at like 50K a day. So like, it's so hard to know. And like, I hate saying this stuff because then people will come in with these like weird expectations, and it's like, no. This is such a flywheel that takes a while to get up. And that's why I think the blitz is the best way to get the flywheel going.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So now we can jump to our next
Bye, guys.
speaker. Thank you, Jordan. Have a good one. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Mariah. How you doing?
I'm
How's
doing
everything?
well. This is a great conversation. Excited to be a
Yes.
part.
Thank you.
Okay.
So if you want, just give us a brief introduction by yourself, company, and let's dive into the topic. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Mariah and I've been in e-commerce for 4 years now. I'm currently the head of marketing at Malomo, which is a branded order tracking app, as well as the host of my own podcast, Retention Chronicles. I chat a lot about customer retention strategy, and I've been doing that for 4 years and recently just launched my own brand. So I'm sitting in that seat with everyone. I'm excited today. It's going to be great. And so in this specific session, I'm going to walk through why brands are targeting the transactional experience. So we've obviously been talking about a bunch of different things today already, and there's so much more to come after my 10 minutes here. But we are going to be diving into transactional emails and order tracking notifications. So this is within the D2C channel specifically. And I think this is great for what Vincenzo was talking about earlier. If you're at that point where you have an Amazon storefront, but you're trying to hop into the D2C world, this is going to be a strategy that can be an easy win because you send those transactional notifications once someone purchases. And even if your D2C channel is your strongest or one of the strongest channels you have today, a lot of brand operators don't even know that you can turn the transactional experience into a remarketable one. So that is what we're going to be here today chatting about. So I think we could all agree it's a lot easier to meet people where they already are. And this is why I am so drawn to the transactional experience and why I think it's so important to come on these webinars and talk about the capabilities that brand founders have within the post-purchase experience. These transactional emails are engaged with a ton while customers are tracking their order. So on average, your customers are checking those tracking emails 4.6 times per order. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, we're not talking about your marketing emails like your abandoned cart or win back flows or your welcome series. Those are strictly marketing and they're promotional. We are talking about those transactional emails that once someone takes the action of buying something on your website, those notifications like order confirmation, shipping updates, delivery notifications are issued out to your customers. And these are secret gold mines when you realize that you can have this approach with these transactional notifications. because you see such high engagement within those emails. So customers open those order emails about 80 to 90%, and then click through those emails about 20 to 30%. So that's almost a 4x higher open rate and then a 10x higher click-through rate. So you might be asking, well, if that's the case, if there's this kind of hidden capabilities within these transactional emails, why isn't everyone doing this? Great question. And I see this a lot over the past 4 years with Malomo. And it always comes down to two different things. Some brands think that these transactional notifications just don't need to have marketing collateral in them, or, just don't even, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're using Shopify, they're set up this way and I don't need to change that. Kind of just using those templatized versions of transactional emails, or there's confusion around canned spam. So this is why education is important here on things like this webinar, right? Because the truth of these notifications is you can customize these, and you totally should. It is fully compliant to have marketing assets like promotional links and product links in the transactional emails. You just have to make sure that the transactional information remains primary. That's the main premise of all of this. And because it's such a visual strategy, and like I said at the top of discussing here today, not all brand founders or operators even know that you can do this. So I want to make sure we're all in the same spot, because I know a lot of information is being thrown at you today, and it's all great information. So it's such a visual approach when you are branding the post-purchase experience that I want to walk through some things. So this is the typical experience, right? A customer buys from you. They have an engaging, a branded experience on your website. And then after they buy, they are sent a order confirmation email. It is plain text. It is no branding. It's just your order is confirmed. And then that email sends them to a carrier tracking page. So they're offsite on a carrier website like UPS, FedEx, USPS, and it's totally off brand, right? This is what just stops the post-purchase experience. There's not another way for the customer to engage with your brand as they are waiting for your order to get to their doorstep. And of course, we have to give it a fun name because this is marketing, right? So it's the post-purchase dead zone. We spend all this time perfecting the pre-purchase side of things, that when it comes to post-purchase, when someone has just given you their money, it seems like it just falls flat. The experience feels like a shipping receipt. And so it's a huge missed opportunity. Now we can contrast this with what I like to call the post-purchase flywheel. And I love that we always use a flywheel in marketing, right? Because you are trying to add to that funnel and just keep re-engaging people. So again, this is the new version of what you now all hopefully know that you can do within your transactional notifications. So you have the post-purchase, you have the pre-purchase experience on your website. Someone buys from you, but now they are sent a series of on-brand, beautiful emails for every single stage of the carrier scan events. So that is order confirmed, order in transit, order out for delivery, and delivered. And if there's problems with the orders, like delays, they get another email. And then those emails take them to a branded order tracking page. So it has a targeted CTA, and you can select based off of your brand goals what you want those customers to see while they are waiting for your package to arrive. And then of course that can send them back to your website to shop, and the flywheel has begun. On average, because I'm also a data driven marketer, on average, brands typically see a 1 to 3% increase in repeat orders from these branded tracking pages. And that's amazing, because when you think about it, this is how it is a retargeting channel, because you are not spending additional CAC. You are just redesigning that transactional experience to give your customers more ways to interact with your brand while they are waiting for their purchase to get to their doorstep. So this is what I mean when I say at the top of the call, like this presentation is titled, it's an owned retargeting channel, because unlike your other retargeting channels like social media, there's no algorithm, there's no bidding war. Your customers are already looking here. So you are just enhancing the experience by converting it into one that is better designed. So that's kind of what I like to call stage one. That's more like the educational, make sure that we're all on the same foundation. We are talking about this because if you are not already thinking about the transactional experience in this way for your D2C shop, there's a ton that you can already do there. But now I want to look a little bit deeper into strategies that will further propel you into being, out there and being really strong against your competitors or other people in the game who perhaps don't have a post-purchase experience like this. Because in this economy right now, those things are making the difference. So let's talk about a couple different experiments that you could try if you're already setting up your transactional experience in this way and you want to go a level deeper. So first thing that you can do is a brand swap within your transactional emails. So you can see in the transactional email on the right, the transactional information remains primary. That has to happen for those emails to be marked as transactional. And then below it, there is a cross promotion for a complementary brand. And I'm willing to bet everyone here knows another founder whose product is complementary to theirs. And you could totally just ask them if they're open to doing something like this. There doesn't have to be any budget for it because you are totally compliant to do so. And it is a acquisition channel without any cost because it is within the transactional emails. And it works because you increase the trust between you and your own customers by showing them a thoughtful product pairing in an organic way. And it also exposes your brand to a whole new set of customers when your product is surfaced on the complementary brand's transactional information or transactional emails, all again at no additional cost. The second thing that you can do is you can offer a one-time discount that they can use on their next order. And of course, you can put a timer on it. Disco does this in a great way because the discount is exclusive to your best, most current existing customers. And obviously, the time-based component can create a sense of urgency. And you can even consider being a little bit more aggressive on the discount amount because, again, this does not have any additional acquisition costs to it. So you can pass off those savings to your customer to make it even more enticing. And then the third recommendation is you can showcase product education to reduce returns before they even have their product in hand. So I love what Brunt is doing here because it gives the customer awareness about how their product fits before they even have their product in their hand. This automatically reduces returns because customers will look at these emails. Remember that 4.6 average views on these emails while customers are tracking their order, but they won't be distracted by having their product in hand. I know that as much as we want them to, when customers usually get their products in hand, they won't always read educational inserts that come with those products. Sometimes they're just like tearing through their box or their bag and they're just excited to see what the product is. So if you can send an email that is beforehand educating them on how the product fits, how they should get it to work, you'll capture them in that time where they're excited but not distracted by having their product at their door. So I know that's a lot of information. So I will share a library, or you can scan the QR code of other email examples from brands who are doing this with their D2C channel. And I'm also a fan of offering, if anyone wants to see their design, like their custom mock-up design, I will make one for you. So you can see like, okay, this is, if I have subscriptions, this is how I can segment by subscriptions or whatever your brand looks like. Happy to do so, completely free, complimentary, no strings attached. So I will put that in the chat, but thank you all for sharing a few minutes with me today. It's been a joy.
Thank you so much, Mariah. Pleasure to be here. Thank you. Very insightful. So for everybody, I already see some questions coming in, so feel free to ramp up as many as you can, and then towards the end, we'll make sure we answer them for you. So up next, we have, and let me just confirm. Yes, actually, we have Anthony. Anthony, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good, good. Welcome. How's everything going?
Pretty good. I'm excited to hop in here. There's quite a bit
Awesome.
to talk through. Try to squeeze it into
Yes,
10 minutes here.
floor is yours. Yeah, you can go.
Cool. Let me share my screen here.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody can see that.
Yes, we can see it.
Awesome. There we go. Sweet. So what we're going to talk through here is why 91% of D2C brands waste their on-site data and what to do instead. And so there's going to be quite a bit of data thrown at you. And so focus in because it's going to be pretty heavy, but you'll have access to the slide deck and there'll be some other resources to help you kind of process all of this. But consistently, we see brands kind of struggling to leverage their on-site performance as a growth lever. And that's why we've got 91% of D2C brands. We'll touch on where that 91% data point comes into play in a second, but that is what we're going to chat through today. And so one of the biggest things we see, which I just talked about, was that idea that brands are leaving kind of revenue on the table as a result of not leveraging their on-site performance as a growth lever. And so there is a plethora of data, both quantitative and qualitative data, that brands could be using to understand how their site is performing and then leverage that to ultimately improve the experience. That is going to feed into all of your different marketing channels. It's where your traffic is primarily driven. Obviously, you have other potential sales channels, but when we're talking about your D2C channel, you're driving traffic to your on-site experience. That is a massive part of your funnel, and there's a lot of opportunity there to improve the experience so that you're ultimately driving more revenue per user. And there's oftentimes some simple changes and improvements that can lead to pretty substantial lifts. And we'll dive into a few real examples here a little bit later. But that is ultimately something that a lot of brands are missing out on, is those opportunities to squeeze more revenue out of their users, many of those users that they're paying for already. And so that is what we're going to be kind of touching on, how you can turn your on-site performance into a growth lever. And so a little bit about me real quick. I'm Anthony. I'm the founder and CEO of eNavi. We are a CRO agency. That's our core focus. We do what we call human-obsessed CRO, and we really try to get into the mind of your customer to understand why they buy, why they don't buy, and then leverage that to improve your on-site experience, turn your on-site performance into a growth lever. And so I started in-house. I've touched a variety of roles across the e-com space over the last 10 years or so. And so I know the pains of what it's like to wear multiple hats, being stretched thin across a bunch of different priorities and things that you're trying to focus on, and you end up going a mile wide and only an inch deep. And so at the core of what we try to do with our process and approach at eNavi is really help focus and prioritize your efforts when it comes to the on-site experience. And so we're going to talk through kind of how we do that with our inter-site funnel approach. And so the things we're covering, the first thing is the problem with how most brands approach their on-site performance. And so when we're looking at kind of the typical approach to improving or kind of monitoring how the on-site experience and how it's performing, it's typically looked at through a purchase journey similar to this, whether that's in Shopify, whether that's in GA4 or another tool. It's something that's showing you the percentage of users that are maybe viewing a product, adding to cart, reaching checkout, completing checkout. And in some cases, brands will go a few segments deeper, and they'll look at like device type or things like that. But the reality is this view has a lot of holes and flaws into it. And the inter-site funnel approach that we have kind of addresses those issues and really helps brands understand through the funnel where users are dropping off with context, where they're coming from, so that you can ultimately go in and identify the actual problems that are hindering your users, and you're not left guessing or trying to do a million different things at one time. And so this is the inter-site funnel. And at the core of it, we believe conversion rate is deceptive. If you've at all been in e-com for any time, you can see that conversion rate is very much dictated by a lot of variables that are not related to your on-site experience. So we're talking your traffic splits, your composition, where your traffic's coming from. Just turn up, your paid ad spend, and you're probably going to see your conversion rate dip. Or turn off your paid ad spend, and you're probably going to see your conversion rate increase. And so there's a lot of variables to that, and makes conversion rate just not a good metric to measure performance by. That's why we use the inter-site funnel. It helps us really narrow in and understand where users are dropping off within the actual funnel. And so The first thing here in the inter-site funnel is what we call the landing to product view metric. So this is the percentage of users that land on the site and view a product. All of the kind of charts that we have here are from our inter-site funnel benchmark report. We have an internal data set of hundreds of Shopify stores. And with this, we've created a benchmark report across the different inter-site funnel metrics. And so there'll be a resource at the end here that you can grab to have access to the inter-site funnel benchmark report. But this is a very important metric. We found that 94% of brands are actually underperforming across one of the related kind of metrics within this, which we'll touch on in a minute. The second one here is product view to add to cart. So the percentage of users that view a product, how many of those are actually adding to cart? You can see our target rate here for this is 12 to 18%. This is another area where performance can definitely can be pretty drastic depending on the industry, the price point, the channel that the user is coming from. But the target rate typically sits around this across the board. There are some industries that are a little lower. There are some industries that are a little bit higher. But this is one metric where we're going to go in a specific segment of users that typically really underperform and kind of the opportunities there to address that. The next one is the percentage of users that add to cart, or the percentage of users that begin checkout after adding to cart. There is a lot of different things that could be wrapped up into this problem. What's ultimately causing this friction point, this anxiety. For an apparel brand, there can be really high add to cart rates and really low begin checkout rates because the cart is used as like a wish list. And so that user behavior can definitely play a factor into here. And most of the time when you're addressing this issue, it's not as much addressed on your cart page or your cart drawer. It's oftentimes addressed more preemptively further up the funnel. There's some friction points, some motivation that can be inserted before the user even adds to cart that ultimately leads to a halo effect of this metric performing much better. And then begin checkout to purchase. This is one where the majority of Shopify stores actually perform pretty well. This is where the Shopify checkout experience being the same or relatively similar across most stores. The majority of stores are on the 1 page. There are still some that are on the 3-page checkout. But in general, users have experienced this checkout before, so that familiarity helps. Most of the time when a brand struggles here, it's because there's some logistical issues, whether it's hidden fees or they've got a substantial amount of international traffic, shipping, delivery times aren't communicated well. Oftentimes, there can be a lot of focus into this portion of the funnel because it's closer to where the user is spending, but a lot of times the juice really isn't worth the squeeze. And so where the inter-site funnel really comes to life is within the master list. And so we've got those 4 key metrics right here. And each column is built up of those. On the far left side here, we have different segments. So we're breaking it down by device, landing page, channel, user type. There's a variety of different ways that you can break this down. You can stack different segments on top of each other to get even more surgical. The bigger a store is, the more you can get granular, and it becomes a worthwhile effort because you have that quantity of users and sample size to work with to really understand the data. And then on the far right side is the percentage of users, so we can understand the weight of that problem. And so anything in red is underneath the target. And there's a couple things that I'm going to call out here. And these are the 2 core problems that we see most Shopify stores or e-commerce brands struggle with. And so it's landing to product view, in particular when we look at homepage as a landing page. So those users that land on the homepage, the percentage of them that are viewing products. We can see in this example, it's at 42.5%. That's below the target. And then collection landing pages. So in this scenario, both the homepage and the collection as landing pages make up about 30% of the traffic, and both are underperforming the targets. If a brand is just looking at GA4's purchase journey report, where they see sessions and then product views, they're probably going to see a really high product view rate, right? So in this scenario, we see 60% of users are viewing products because 62.5% of them are landing on product pages, right? And so that's going to skew the global metric. But when we go a layer deeper, we can really see that there's opportunity. We have a significant amount of traffic, 30% is not a small amount of traffic, especially if you're dealing with an 8 or a 9-figure store. And so there's definitely opportunity to optimize right there within landing to product view when we go a layer deeper into the landing page. And then the second problem is where we see colder audiences typically being driven to product pages. So in this situation, we see 62.5% of landing pages are on the product page, and that's at 8.4%. That's well below the target of 12%. We can also see 47% of traffic is from paid, and for PDP to cart, that's at 10.75%. That's below the target. We can probably imply, and if we were to kind of look at paid landing on PDPs, there's probably a pretty high percentage of the 62.5% of traffic that's landing on product pages that's coming from paid, and it's probably performing even worse than this 8% here. In some cases, we see it as low as 5%. This is definitely one of the other big problems that brands have is they're driving a lot of traffic to their PDPs, and their PDPs just aren't done in a way that really orient the user well and perform well as a landing page. So those were the two problems. We're going to touch on them a little bit more here, but like I said, product discovery, predominantly when we're looking at users that land on a homepage or collection page, this is an area where 94% of the brands in our benchmark report struggled in one of the kind of sub-metrics of landing to product view, whether that's users that land on a homepage or users that land on a collection page. One of those two are not hitting that target of 50%. And so there's a variety of things that can be done to address this problem, depending on where it is. If it's a lot of users that are being driven to the homepage, you've got the homepage hero, the near the fold section, you've got navigation, you've got search. When it comes to collection pages, there's the actual orientation there. Where's the users coming from? Are we sending a lot of paid traffic? Does that collection page orient well? Does the offer and the messaging align with what they saw in the ad creative? And then when we're looking at the second opportunity here is when we're selling to colder audiences. In a lot of cases, this is typically being driven to PDPs. There are cases where that's not true, but a lot of times we see brands driving to product pages, and we can see that as low as 5%. And remember, our target is 12%, so substantially below the target. That's an area where it's going to be really hard to scale profitably and efficiently on the paid side when you're underperforming that much post-click. And so you can do all you want pre-click with ad creative, but if your post-click funnel is not addressing kind of the things that are necessary to sell to these colder audiences, and you're just kind of throwing out a general PDP, you're probably going to struggle to scale, especially in today's market with the competition that we see and the increased costs on Meta, and that's only going to increase here with Q4 coming, as we always see those CPMs tend to skyrocket as the year progresses. The next thing I want to go over is a few real examples of kind of addressing these two core problems. So the first one is with Carnivore Snacks. Landing to product view was their issue. In our first 90 days with them, they had a high percentage of users that were landing on the homepage, but very few of them were actually reaching the product page. So they had a lot of direct traffic, a lot of traffic coming from YouTube, a lot of referral traffic that was dropping on the homepage. And so in that first 90 days with them, we did a lot to address that problem. And so we focused in on their homepage hero, the copy. I'll have a note on that here in a second. Their navigation, we simplified that, made that ultimately improved the merchandising there. The same thing with their below the fold. As a result, we saw 25.5% more users get to product pages, and that resulted in an 11.7% increase in average revenue per user. And so that traffic that's coming in, landing on the homepage, is now ultimately worth more because we're squeezing more out of every user that landed on the site. And so that's an example there. And drilling down a little bit further is an actual test that we did based off of voice of customer data. So within our process, you've seen a lot of quantitative, but whenever you're doing CRO, you need to have both the quantitative and the qualitative research. And by qualitative research, I mean getting into post-purchase surveys, review mining, customer support tickets to understand what your customers are saying, why they're buying, why they're not buying, what are their friction points, what are their motivations. And in this case, one of the common kind of themes we saw emerge in reviews and post-purchase surveys was this idea of it being addictive. And so a simple test we did was updating the copy. And so you can see the control here, meat and salt, that's it. In the variant, we added simple and addictive. And as a result, this had a massive increase in average revenue per user, kind of touching on the common voice of customer data. What we hear customers saying about the product had a massive impact on their revenue per user. And that's on the homepage. That's not even testing on a product page. That's pretty far up the funnel, and it had a really positive impact on performance. And so that's an example of kind of the holistic CRO process. And then the last one here was with Baltic Born. And so they had that second problem that we talked about, product view to add to cart. They're driving a lot of cold traffic from paid social to their product pages, significantly underperforming the target. And so we were able to make some pretty substantial improvements there. Product view to add to cart increased 13.5%. From paid traffic, it increased 9.5%. And this was all done through kind of focusing in on their image gallery, making sure that the images that are presented there are actually what the users need to see and want to see. And so some additional tracking there to understand what images users are focusing in on, which ones are they zooming on, and then leveraging that to improve the ordering of images, the actual images that are being shot. There was a lot around size and fit. That's a massive problem for apparel brands, and there's a lot of layers to that one. And then as simple as shipping and logistics and like returns, communicating that better on the product page had a massive impact too for those colder users. And so that's kind of a review of some real life examples when we're focusing in on those two core problems. And so my challenge to you, any e-com brands here, you can grab this link here. This will take you to a resource that we have. Like I said, it'll have the inter-site funnel report, but it'll also have a looker report that you can use to look at the inter-site funnel. It's literally one click. You just select your GA4 store or your GA4 property, and it will then display the inter-site funnel data. It'll show the master list. It works pretty well. It's not perfect. As you get to like larger stores, it's going to break just because the GA4 API, but you're going to get some really good trend data, and then you can identify your metric on fire. You can see, okay, we're struggling with users that land on the homepage, and then you can bring in your team and go in and ultimately hypothesize and ideate some solutions to address that metric on fire that you see. And so that is really a great way to understand your on-site performance and a great next step kind of based off what we talked to today.
Thank you, Anthony. That was great. Like it's crazy to see all the numbers and all the technicality behind each of the pages. So I appreciate that. So as before any questions for Anthony, leave it below. I already see some questions ranking up there, and then we can answer them towards the end. We have the last speaker of the day, Dustin. How you doing?
Hi, Vincenzo.
How you doing?
Perfecto. Let me just try to share my screen.
Thank you.
We can go and talk a little bit about.
You can see
Trust.
there your
Can
WhatsApp.
you see it now?
We can see your WhatsApp.
My WhatsApp. Oh, that's not good.
I think we can see. I think Anthony is still sharing his screen. Anthony, if you can just remove your screen very quickly. And awesome, thank you, Anthony. And then Dustin, you can.
Okay. Let's see if
we can see now. We see now.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So what we'll talk about today is how to leverage all the traffic that you already worked really hard to get on your landing page, on your website, and not to mess up that traffic you worked so hard for. And one obvious solution to that is to have people trust you. Trust is what sells. If you ever go to a store and buy a Coke, you don't really question why you buy it. You just do that because you trust it for a multitude of reasons, right? We cannot compare ourselves to Coke or Nike, but we can do a lot of things not to mess up with customers and make them feel good. Why? Because customers buy from people they trust. It's not only happening in the online world, it's happening all around. So you can use the same psychology to understand your buyers and actually give them what you need. You want to present yourself as a trustworthy person before they can actually buy from you. The second thing about trust is that people buy products or services that other people they know buy as well. So in the online world, this is really important because you do not have that person-to-person communication. It's not like they come to your physical store, you can shake their hand. And here you actually have to leverage the trust, borrow trust from others and persuade them that everybody else is very willing to work with you and they're very successful after using your products. And third thing is, if you ever read the book Thinking Fast and Slow, it's a beautiful psychological explanation about why people stop buying products. For example, if you introduce a lot of cognitive overload into the buying process, they will not buy. So remove all the risks, remove all the uncertainty that they might have on your website, and they will be much more willing to purchase. So let's get into a few tips that I prepared. And just to show you that this actually works, Trustpilot, which is one of the probably most well-known companies out there when it comes to reviews. And they actually did a study, which we trust because they're Trustpilot. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Nobody questions these numbers, neither will I or you probably. So they could be lying to us. We don't know. So what they say is that almost every person in the study showed at least one signal on the website that actually made them more willingly to purchase. So there are always these subtle cues and not so subtle cues that will actually help you guide the customer towards the end of the purchasing journey. And one interesting fact that we found is that different trust signals mean different things for different groups of people. For example, Gen X, or younger generation, values the social signals much more than the older generations. So if you have a lot of trustworthy for example, influencers, as Daniel talked about earlier, you can leverage that, for example, and they will trust that. So let's get into a few tips. We have 5 today. Hopefully we'll manage to go through all of them. So the first one is really simple. That means just present yourself. You have a company, you have a name, you have an address. Most of the companies do not put that online. Now, there's this very, very interesting thing in Europe, especially in Germany and Switzerland, where you're like obligated to show that information in an impressum or imprint. So we advise our clients, no matter what they are, to actually use similar things. So it's a whole document explaining exactly who your company is, who you are by name and everything. So there is no reason for you to hide it, and a lot of people do. So once you display that, people will trust you more. Actually, Google likes this as well, so there's a bonus in that. So another thing is you need to take care of your digital footprint. Again, we had a mention of this. One of the speakers, I forgot, maybe it was Daniel as well. And he was saying, like, if your channel has 0 followers, like, people will check up on you, right? And if you claim you're like a large brand and people go to your social channel that you got like 2 followers, they will not buy you. That something is fishy, right? So if you don't maintain a channel, don't even put a link on it. Like, you better put it down or say, we don't use this, go to our Instagram page or whatever. So either use it or lose it. And one also really good thing that you could do is humanize your presence. So that means with your data about the company and everything, you have a face. Your teammates have a face. The product you're building has a process in it. So you would showcase this, and this brings a lot of trustworthiness with your brand. So these are really simple things to do, and I highly advise people to start with this. So another thing is, like, don't piss off your customers with really bad UX. One of the first things that you might have noticed coming to a website is a pop-up, like really hitting you in the face, asking you for your email. And you're like, I don't know who you are. I clicked on this ad selling bags. So please explain who you are, who the bags, like, why are the bags so amazing? And you're asking me for an email for 5% off. Like, this is a huge no-no, and as a lot of people just do this, I cannot understand why. So remove that, remove all other pop-ups that actually clutter the UX. If you don't really need it, just just delete it. You will not make a mistake. So understanding how people interact and go through your website is very important. And what you want to make it as easy as possible. So you need to remove all the clutter and you want to have consistency over your whole website experience. That means if you land on the homepage, that homepage needs to lead you to your PDP, which needs to look similar. They cannot be completely different. You cannot be using completely different elements, especially if you go to the purchase page. So you are then leaving your credit card information. And if you have even a little bit of a doubt, you will just stop at that point. So there's only one thing that is outside of this rule, that is Shopify, because they have a standardized checkout for most of the merchants. And people are already used to that. So that sort of breaks the rule, but in a good way. So optimizing for speed and mobile experience is so important. I don't know if I should even mention this, but yeah, obviously I should, because we do still see a lot of merchants having issues with their mobile experiences or sites being extremely slow to load. We're living in an era where people use less than like a second to decide if they're going to watch a video on TikTok or Instagram. So this is pretty much the amount of time you need. They're not going to wait, so do not let them wait. You really need to be really important for them to not skip and go back to Google and search for the second product. So this is about the UX. Another stuff that is really important and easy to overlook is the amount of information that you share. So you don't want to hide anything that will actually pop up later during the checkout process. So pricing needs to be very clear and very transparent. If anybody is even thinking for a second that you're obscuring the price, they feel that you're literally trying to trick them and they will leave. So never, never, ever try to hide the price or have any hidden costs unless you really, really have a good reason for that. So the second thing is shipping. You can postpone the shipping calculation until a bit later, but once you show it, it needs to be very clear, very specific, and very accurate. So you don't want to have any hidden costs popping up later in the process. And just one more thing would be showing all the pricing information, the delivery information that you might have. So that means when do you deliver, how much time do you need, what are the return policies. So you want to give that to your customer as soon as possible. So it might happen that somebody drops off after hearing that it will take 5 days to get an item delivered, but it's much better than taking that item back, than just not accepting it, because you'll be paying for shipping, you will have an unsatisfied customer, and you still will not have that purchase. So it's actually better to be upfront as much as you can, even if that means losing a customer, because you will be losing that customer anyhow at a much greater cost later. So another thing is, how do we utilize trust signals, which are not ours? So how do we borrow them from different platforms? So for example, a lot of people will be using different logos of bigger brands just to borrow on that trust. So for example, if you sell a product or make a product and you are featured in Men's Health, Financial Times, whatever of these big magazines you are featured, you want to be promoting that probably on the homepage or somebody where people will see it and they will be like, oh my God, this is being recognized by these big players, these big magazines. But except for, let's say, homepage and maybe PDP, you don't want to overclutter with that information. And if you're a bigger seller, you probably want to avoid this. Because okay, Nike is probably too huge, but imagine Nike slapping logos of different magazines who wrote about him. Makes no sense. People already know about them a little bit, so you don't need to borrow these trust signals. So what you want to have is guarantees, if you have any, and you should, and you want to display them at appropriate stages of the purchase. So right next to the add to cart button, if you have any guarantees, you should put it there. Payment security is something that is being often misused. The only place where it really makes a lot of sense is while people are like grabbing their card. So they need to be certain that you're not tricking them, that the website is eligible. And of course, if you're using Shopify, a lot of that stuff is already taken care of. And when it comes to reviews, which is what a lot of people think about first when you talk about trust, there are two things that you need to keep an eye on. First, always have genuine reviews. Of course, like in the beginning, when you have zero, you want to find a really good way to get some of these reviews in. Okay, ask friends, but they should, again, if they don't like the product, you probably shouldn't be selling it in the first place. So they should leave their genuine review. And if you just stick to that, you will never make a mistake. Just don't buy reviews, don't buy them in bulk. This is a very bad practice, and you will just have a negative impact in the end. And the other thing is, once you gather reviews or UGC like videos or video testimonials or whatever you can get from your customers, you can leverage specific reviews. For example, if the packaging of your products is very sturdy and you know that other competitors have issues with how the packaging is done of the product, you will use this review to actually promote how your product is better, not by saying it, but by using somebody else's testimonial to actually advertise for this. So these are the most prominent ways you can use other people's trust signals. And what I wanted to mention as well is, how does AI play into account in this trust world nowadays? Because you see more and more AI tools coming up, and a lot of let's say fake products, fake reviews, fake images. So how do you leverage this in a way that you do not lose trust? So the first thing is, if you're using AI to help you with customer satisfaction, to help answer the questions, try not to pretend that AI is a real person, because people will most probably know, they'll figure it out, and they will be a little bit mad at you for trying to trick them. So don't do that. If you have product personalization recommendation done on your site, it's perfectly fine to have advanced AI systems working on that behind, but try not to put that in the face of the customer. Oh, the AI did this for you, but we handpicked these deals for you, or based on your previous purchases, these are the deals which are good for you. Do not stress the AI side of things while personalizing or recommending products. And when it comes to AI generated videos or imagery, it is getting harder not to use it, because some of them have really good results, and there are many cases where you should be using them. But if you do, you should say that they are AI generated. And it's always better to have real images, and maybe some of the images or videos generated by AI, but they need to be real, in a sense that your product really looks like this. You just using AI to create that video or that piece of content that would better describe it. So if you do that, you will not have any issues. So these are basically all the trust tips that I have. If any of that resonated with you, I would love to connect and have a chat with you and see if we can help in any way. I'm Dushan. My company is called Bite Software, and we're specializing in helping Amazon sellers open up their D2C brand or scale the existing D2C brand, which is maybe not having enough love. So we work closely with Vincenzo as well. And yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Dushan. Pleasure.
You.
So yeah, so we came to an end. So that was great, guys. Thank you so much. I also have a police from Will Lorenzo. He couldn't make it. He has some emergencies. So Sorry about that. But in the meantime, let's focus on, we have a couple of questions here I wanted to quickly go over. And for those that, are thinking about the last kind of doubts or things that we went over, feel free to drop the questions in here so we can, make sure we maximize the time of today's speaker. So then one of the questions I have here from Rahul, he's asking regarding questions about driving traffic from Meta to Amazon for a jewelry brand. What are some of the key points in drafting the right content, and also how to improve brand visibility from Meta ads? So I guess it's like three questions in one there. So I don't know if any of you wanna pick one of those questions around the content, around the visibility, and around the traffic. So anybody wants to start around that? I can jump in as well. So in this one, I guess to give you some insight, Raul, regarding the traffic, I would say the most important thing you have to consider is, first of all, defining the goals regarding driving traffic from Meta to Amazon. Like at the end of the day, if you're doing that, most likely it's because your ads on Amazon are working. So I will ask the question in terms of why my ads on Amazon are working. That means I don't have a product that's providing the right offer, I don't have the right price, my listings are not optimized, or what is the reasoning behind why PPC is not working on Amazon. Because before going beyond Amazon to run any ads, in this case Meta and Google, I need to make sure that's fully optimized. Because if you run any advertising from Meta, Google to Amazon, and your listings and your offers are not fully optimized, you're just gonna effectively actually do actually a more negative impact. You're just gonna attribute a lot of negative data to your account, which is something we want to avoid at all costs. We also have regarding drafting the right content. Anybody wants to join around that, around the content for running ads? So I guess in D2C in general. We also, just to confirm, yeah, Anthony?
I mean, I can add some stuff. I don't do any media buying or
Yep.
ad creative creation, but when it comes to your ad creative, one of the most important things is making sure that it's aligned to your voice of customer data. And so understanding what are kind of the core messages that resonate with your audience. And for most brands, they have a plethora of data to work with to understand like what was the key motivation, what was the problem maybe that they had previously that they wanted to address with the product. There's a variety of different ways that you can attack it, but it's really important to understand your customer when thinking through that creative ideation process, and then making sure that that messaging doesn't just stay on the ad, but also flows through to the post-click experience. So there's alignment there, and you're not just like, you don't have an ad that's targeting, a more mature audience, and then they go to a general PDP that has imagery of like 20-year-old girls and does nothing to address that audience. You want to make sure that there's alignment there. Yep, for sure.
Cool. Yeah, which I guess talking about that is also a question regarding if you have some example of brands that you say are doing a good implementation of this, or product pages where these ads land and everything you were talking about. Do you have some brands that come to mind when it comes to
them? Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some brands that we work with that we know the data and we know how well they're performing. And then there's definitely some brands that I don't have access to their data, but my perception is the way that they're approaching things, it's probably performing well. I can drop in a couple examples here that I'll drop into the response to the question, but there's definitely a few, and I'll highlight the reasons why I think their product pages are performing well.
Cool. We also have a question from Jasar. I would say this is more for all of us in here today. They're asking regarding the service to cover all of this. I guess all of you very quickly, you want to go over the services and how people can find you. I know you just shared the slides, but just to have a quick rundown so we can start wrapping up today's webinar.
If I may just add to what Anthony was saying,
Sure.
and in terms of the answer, I wouldn't trust any brands right now, but there's a person I would recommend that you follow on LinkedIn, Linda Bustos, and Ecom Ideas. She constantly reviews product pages and generally ecom websites and gives out really good examples of what is being done differently. So I would highly advise that you check her out. She's an amazing professional.
Thank you. And regarding, well, you just mentioned regarding services, but just to highlight, do you want to add anything else from your side?
I think I covered most of it. So basically, we're a full service business consultancy and e-commerce agencies working specifically with Amazon sellers who want to build their brand. Primarily, we'll be working with Shopify and helping the brand scale up with the correct marketing strategy
Cool.
and implementation. Thanks.
Cool. Mariah, you want to add something as well to that?
Yeah, for sure. I tried to put it in the links and QR codes,
Okay.
everything in the little answered portion of the Q&A. My email's also in there. It's Mariah at gomalomo.com if anyone has any answers, or like LinkedIn or whatever. But yeah, Malomo helps to do all those things that I was talking about of brand the transactional experience. So mainly Shopify third-party app, but across all e-com platforms.
Cool. And Anthony, to conclude?
Yeah, so there's the resource that I shared there in the slides. That's got a bunch of stuff within it. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find me just with my name, Anthony Morgan. We also have a newsletter too that we send out weekly that focuses in on the on-site experience and how you can turn that into a growth lever. There's a lot of good content that we produce from that end. But if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm constantly posting there. And then also Sheldon Adams, our head of growth, is probably posting a little bit more than I am, but we've got loads of good content there to help you think about your on-site performance.
Awesome. I appreciate it. So thank you once again, guys, for your time, your expertise. As I said, like the importance of webinars like this, especially in the Amazon space where we're trying to bring all this knowledge when it comes to D2C is huge. Like I think it's definitely something that people has to implement as of now. Is like something that you either do it or you're gonna really have a tough time, and we're already seeing that with brands that are not. So I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of follow up when it comes to questions and ways to, of course, engage with all the things that we discussed on today's webinar. And for those live, I appreciate you being here. I know some of you couldn't do it, so we're gonna then blast an email to all the attendees with the recordings and all the information for all our speakers. So any questions, anything, feel free to reach out. I'm sure we are all more than happy to add value to you guys. So other than that, it's been a pleasure from my side. I appreciate all of you and see you in the next one. Yeah. So thank you so much, guys. Yeah.
Thank you. This is great.
Bye bye.
See ya.
Thanks,
Take care,
guys.
guys. Thank you. Bye bye.